1%. When you don't have a thriving middle class, you don't have a thriving democracy, because all the power is in that money that's held in the hands of a very few people. That's an oligarchy. That's not a democracy. And that's why Louis Brandeis said you can have large amounts of money concentrated in the hands of a few, or you can have democracy. You cannot have both.
Right.
We're losing our democracy. You know, when Abraham Lincoln said that the men who died at Gettysburg had given their last full measure of devotion so that a government of the people, by the people, and for the people would not perish from the earth. It's perishing now.
Yeah.
On our watch, we become a government of the corporations, by the corporations, and for the corporations. And the DNC is just another one of those corporations. And it's time for the American people to really take back our country.
Our democracy is perishing, and it seems as if our climate is doing the same thing. Planet Earth had the hottest recorded temperatures last year in 2023. The United States of America, we're supposedly the most powerful nation on Earth. We haven't done much to address the worsening climate emergency. As president, what would you do to deal with the climate crisis?
We need a mass motion from a majority economy to a clean economy, and we know. And if that means declaring a climate emergency, I'm willing to declare a climate emergency. The president has unfortunately given more oil drilling permits than even Trump did. One of the first things I would do is to cancel the Willow Project. And by the way, speaking of the economy, as we make these major investments in the development of a green energy grid, that will develop millions of jobs.
Yeah. Yes.
So saving the planet will be actually good for business. I'll tell you something, not saving the planet will not be good for business, because it will not be good for life on Earth.
No, absolutely not. I mean, if you talk about wildfires, if you talk about, hurricanes, if you talk about flooding, these are things that have incredibly deleterious impacts on the economy, let alone humanity. And I always laugh when I think about, people always frame things in economic terms, and I know that they have to, and I know that's important, but it so often just comes down to basic humanity. I mean, we want to make our lives better. That is the essence. That is what the economy is supposed to be doing. So I kind of laugh at that.
Well, but the problem is that trickle-down economics, Reaganomics, neoliberalism, are not enrolled in that principle. What you just stated was very Rooseveltian, that the purpose of public policy is to help people. Right. The current, the trickle-down corporatist perspective would disagree with that. It says the purpose of a corporation is its fiduciary responsibility to its stockholders, and that means even if it's at the expense of the safety, health, and well-being of people, even if it means exploitation of workers, even if it means job elimination rather than their canard of job creation, even if it means crushing unions, it means, cutting taxes for the very, very rich. And then when you have that corporate perspective represented by entities that can, with their money, so unduly affect and influence our government and turn it into a system of legalized barbarity, we no longer have a country in which the general consensus is that government should help people. Government is enabling the forces that economically tyrannize people. That's what's going on in America today.
Well, as we speak, Rooseveltian the idea may be, I have a poster of Franklin Delano Roosevelt behind me as we speak, so I definitely draw some inspiration from that. When I look at the list of issues on your website, I see something I don't remember any other presidential candidate talking about, and that is disability justice. Now, this is important not only to myself, because I'm a father and a caregiver for an adult daughter with disabilities, and to her and the millions of others like her, but to the increasing number of seniors who will need caregiving over the next generation especially. Why do you choose to include this as part of your focus, and what action do you plan to take as president?
Well, first of all, I think that there is a growing realization, not only in me, but in all of us, that this all men are created equal thing needs to be taken to heart by every generation. Everyone with inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, with the government, as the Declaration of Independence says, instituted to secure those rights. That's the purpose of government, to expand the franchise so that that truly means everyone. So it's not that I feel people with disabilities any more or any less than everyone else should have the opportunity to thrive here. But obviously, there are all kinds of ways in which they do not necessarily at this point. On a personal level, I have profound hearing loss. So when I think, for instance, of insurance not covering hearing aids, if I didn't have hearing aids, I wouldn't be able to be in this conversation with you right now.
Wow. Wow.
And if I didn't have glasses, I'm a writer. How would I write? And so just even aging
Right.
alone, it creates these, in the natural course of events, whether it has to do with your glasses, whether it has to do with your teeth, whether it has to do with your hearing. Beyond that, also, if you look at the history of the United States, when the Disabilities Act was first passed, I think in the 1960s, right? It was a big deal, and it was a real step forward. It's just that it's now time to take ourselves to the next step and to recognize all the various ways that people with disabilities are given the short end of the stick when it comes to many of the economic and social opportunities of people in the United States.
Yeah, and they need assistance to be able to fulfill the promise that this country has made to them, and there is a promise there, and something that we all need to share in. And there can't be any section of our population that is excluded from that. We've had far too much experience with that in our history so far.
I was just going to say, I think that a lot of people, when you just say sharing that, I think a lot of people, and for good reason, I'm not minimizing this, a lot of people say, yes, I have a right to, I have a right to, I have a right to. But I think we have to be equally focused on, I have the responsibility to, I have the responsibility, I have the responsibility. Because not only is sharing, meaning sharing in the rights, but sharing in the deep responsibility that every generation has to keep this ideal alive, to protect it against assault, and to expand it in our time. And that ideal of genuine equality and inalienable rights is under assault, and it's under assault from inside the house right now.
Yeah.
It's under assault from within as much as from without.
Yes, the phone calls against democracy are coming from inside the house.
That's absolutely correct. And I think you and I started today by talking about the DNC. It's really full circle.
Yeah. And if you want to engage, if you want to, take up that responsibility, and I think it's something that we all need to do in one way, shape, or form, one good place to start would be Marianne2024.com. Marianne Williamson is a best-selling author, political activist, spiritual thought leader, and Democratic candidate for president. Marianne, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Lovely talking to you.
All the best. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the show today. You can always go to facepalmamerica.com and find out more and listen to past episodes. I want to thank Ace Elson and Rosabelle Hine for doing as they always do, and that's producing this program. And until next time, enjoy the day. Oh, and by the way, if you could, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, other platforms you can do that. It really helps. Enjoy the day.